And then I have one more request, and then I have no more requests, I think. You gotta get here early. Top left drawer, there should be a stack of silver magnets, all magnetized together. If not, you can give me one of the magnets. Oh, there they are. You see them right there? They're silver. Perfect. Thompson Hero, thank you so much. And then I'll give these back to you. I'm going to mic you for the live stream if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So there's only two things you really need to know.
Okay.
The first thing is it's magnetized, so when you pull it off at the end of the event, just a lot of people, sometimes the magnet goes down their shirt.
Okay.
So just be conscious of that.
Okay.
Is it okay if I
Get in there.
And then the other thing is I'm going to hit this button. It's going to go red, which means you're technically being recorded.
Okay.
So just don't talk shit about your friends, which I say because someone once talked shit about her friends and then was like freaking out.
Yeah, fair enough.
So, yeah.
How did that situation roll out?
She called us frantically. We had to like edit the YouTube video and then put it back up. And the best part about it is she was like really mad at us. She was like, you guys, I didn't know it was being recorded or whatever. And when you listen to the video, the first thing you hear is my coworker saying, so you're now being recorded, which is awesome.
Roll the tape.
So
yeah.
You're now being recorded.
Okay, good to know. Should I clip this anywhere or just leave it? Okay. Okay, pocket is good. Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
And then also, I'm hitting this red button so you're being recorded. Okay, now you're being recorded. And then you can put it where I can get it.
Halley, yes. Yep. Rhymes with Sally, if that helps. Rhymes with Sally.
Can I have your mic for 1 second?
Yeah, of course.
And then I just left it here. Sorry about that.
I'll be more careful. Yeah.
Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you all so much for coming. welcome. Thanks for coming to Zibby's Bookshop. I am Zibby, so it's really nice to meet you. Welcome out here. If you leave here, please tell like 3 friends that the store exists because we've got to spread the word in the neighborhood. I know Lauren lives in the neighborhood, so anyway, so thrilled to have you here. And I'll just get right to it because this is so exciting. Congratulations! Thank you. I know most of you are friends and you don't need this introduction, but for people on the live stream and for people who don't know, I'll read some quick bios. Lauren Ling Brown received a BA in English Literature from Princeton University, no surprise if you read the book, and an MFA in Film Production with a focus in screenwriting from the USC School of Cinematic Arts. She currently resides in Los Angeles, California, where she works as a film editor. Society of Lies is her debut novel and is a Reese's Book Club pick. And Lauren will be at the Shine Away event, and we are the bookseller there. So if anybody else is there, we will also be there selling her lovely book. Also, we have Halley Sutton, and she is a writer and editor who lives in Los Angeles, where she spends time chasing down old Hollywood trivia and cults. Her first novel, The Lady Upstairs, was nominated for a Lefty Award. Her second novel, The Hurricane Blonde, was an instant USA Today bestseller. Her writing has appeared in Ms., The Daily Beast, the Los Angeles Review of Books, Crime Reads, Crime Spree magazine, and more. So enjoy the conversation, and thank you to Brad, her fiance, for bringing all of this here. You guys are come here anytime you want. Just bring the party over here. Okay, enjoy.
Thank you, everyone, for coming to celebrate the publication of Society of Lies, the Reese Witherspoon book pick for the month, which is so exciting. Lauren, for anybody who doesn't know, can you give us a short summary of what Society of Lies is about?
Sure. So first, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming. You all mean so much to me. I love you all. Like, these are my closest friends from, so many years, 10 years back, and some new friends too. So thank you for being here. And Society of Lies is a suspense set at Princeton about 2 sisters born 10 years apart who get invited to join the same secret society. When Maya returns to campus, she is expecting a fun weekend with friends, celebrating her sister's graduation, but then something horrible happens and she learns that her sisters died. So as she starts to investigate, she realizes that a secret in her own past may have something to do with her sister's death.
Wow,
you guys are so fun.
Do you want to read a short clip of the book for us?
Yeah. So this is part of the prologue. Surrounded by wild looks and shuddering bodies, I dance. Everything is elevated, intense, like none of us want this night to end. The air hangs thick as smoke, floors sticky with champagne as heads tip back and arms rise overhead. To my right, strobe lights flash against 19th century doors, their glass panes fogged over. A handprint drips down the glass as a guy presses his date against the wall, her legs wrapped around his waist as they kiss. The place feels charged with electricity, excitement, maybe even fear, if they've been paying attention. Tonight is the night I've waited for my entire life, our initiation into Sterling Club, Princeton's most prestigious eating club. It's not just a place to have fun. It's also a golden escalator to our future. Once inside, we're bound by our secrets, and that creates a deep bond. It feels dangerous, cult-like, but isn't fun always a little bit reckless? And then the other. Several hours later, I'm catching my breath on the upstairs terrace overlooking the back lawn. The late February air hangs cool and still, and it hasn't snowed in weeks. Maybe the worst is over. Exhaling a cloud of breath, I lean over the banister. I like watching people out here. New lovers sneaking off into dark corners, young men sharing a bottle of whiskey, a guy kissing someone who is definitely not his girlfriend. I'm watching a girl stumble down the back steps when a shadow slides over me from behind. A hand touches the bare skin between my shoulder blades, and I go still. When I turn around, the guy I saw watching me is there, tall and confident, attractive. His lips curl into a cocky half grin. He leans closer, And when his hand touches my waist, I feel a current of electricity, my skin warming under his fingertips, as if his touch could burn straight through me. He leans down to whisper in my ear, and what he says makes me freeze. You've been tapped for Greystone Society. I look at him, goosebumps rising over my skin. Greystone Society is so covert that most people at Princeton don't even know they exist, but I've been fascinated by them for years. He looks at his watch. You have 30 seconds to decide if you want to accept. The moment I leave, the offer's done. So what do you think? Are you in? As the reality of his offer sinks in, I grow aware of the shakiness of my breath, the rush of blood in my ears, the exhilaration and fear. In front of me is a door to another universe, another life. I imagine my mother saying from wherever she is now to take every strange adventure life presents, to experience the world, not shy away from it. But in spite of the pride I feel at having been chosen, there's another instinct telling me to run. I bury it, steel myself, and take his hand. I'm in. He smiles. Then come with me.
So, how did you find out the news that this was going to be a Reese Witherspoon book club pick?
So, Brad and my fiance Brad and I were in the Dominican Republic. And actually, the day before that, we were on the beach with some friends in Santa Monica. And it was a great day. I had my Kindle to read some books. I had, an umbrella. I was having a great time. And I turned over and I felt a sting shoot down my leg. And I'm slightly allergic to bees, so my leg started swelling up. And then I was trying to get the stinger out, and a bird pooped on my chest. I was like, this is just not my day. And Brad, being the optimist that he is, was like, no, you know what? This is double the good luck. A bee sting and bird poop on you. This is going to be a great day. And then 2 days later, my agent and editor called when we were on vacation, and they're like, Lauren, we have the best news of your life. It's a Reese's Book Club pick. So he was right.
It's kind of like that old wives' tale of like having a bad wedding day leads to a good marriage.
Yes.
So what was the inspiration behind this story? I know you went to Princeton. How did that play a role in coming up with this?
Well, the idea for the story started with the older sister, Maya, who, like me, is Black and Chinese and always felt like an outsider in certain circles, didn't feel like she fit in anywhere. And so I thought about my feelings stepping off the train onto campus and thinking, how am I possibly going to fit in or be as, I was just looking at all these smart people around me, smart and successful, and I just didn't feel like I fit. And so then I took that person and introduced this moral dilemma. How far would she go to belong if a secret society promised her the life of her dreams, everything she ever wanted, but then she learned that that society was hurting someone else? So that's the moral dilemma at the heart of the book, and something that I wanted the sisters to sort of struggle with, or at least Maya to struggle with throughout this story.
And I feel like the relationship between the sisters is so strong in this book. It's so much the heart of this book. Did you always know that you wanted to write about sisters?
I have a sister who's 3.5 years younger than me, and my brother's 10 years younger. And so, being an older sister, the eldest of three, he was like my little baby growing up, and my sister and I were close. We used to go to the library with my mom and would read with flashlights in our bunk bed growing up. So it's a relationship that means so much to me. And throughout a lot of our life, we had, periods of our life where we weren't as close. And I was always telling her, you should be careful of this. You should do, thought I knew better because I was older. And so sisters, sometimes, at least my sister and I, had miscommunication and didn't always have the words to tell each other how much we loved each other. So that really inspired these two sisters.
Is there one of the sisters that you identified more with? And if so, which one and why?
I think that's really a cool question because they're actually inspired by who I was at different points in my life. So the older sister, Maya, is more insecure. She doesn't know where she fits in. And so that's who I felt like when I first got to college. And I feel Naomi, who was in BAC, the Black Arts Company, this dance group, and she found her spaces where she belonged and, is confident in who she is. That's who I feel like I evolved into.
Mhm.
So they're sort of just, inspired by different points in my life.
Was it harder to write something, like to revisit any of those spaces than others, like the headspace?
Interesting. I guess it is hard to think about, sort of the more difficult situations. Like, in this book, we talk about privilege and racism, and those are not comfortable conversations. And so I think it was more difficult to, revisit those types of situations. But I hope that by talking about them, we can understand each other better and realize like we're more alike than different in general.
I think you navigate that like so gracefully in this book, especially on like such rarefied air as Princeton and these secret societies. And such a good vehicle for that. So the book is you called it a suspense novel, but it also fits really cleanly into dark academia, which is all the rage these days. So like, what is it about dark academia that like draws you? And were there any that like inspired you or that were touchstones for you as you were writing the book?
I love dark academia. I think Never Let Me Go is one that I really love by Kazuo Ishiguro. And then, The Secret History is like the original dark academia. So that obviously, I've read that when I was younger and definitely stayed with me. There are more that I've read recently, like White Ivy that I really like. Yeah.
Nice. And did you always wanted to be a writer? Did you always want to write novels?
I think on some level I did. My mom recently gave me these stories where I would, write in this third grade cursive about my life and like give them to her, dedicated to my family. So I think I did want to be a writer, but I took my first creative writing class in college, and that made me fall in love with writing. And I've always loved to read. And I just think like it took me a while to make it a career, but I did go to grad school to study screenwriting. So it was always a part of the journey.
Do you always know how your novels are going to end when you start them? Like, did you know the ending of Society of Lies when you first started writing it, or was that something you discovered along the way?
I did know the end, and I don't want to give anything away.
Fair.
So I did know the end because it was important to me to include it as part of this like moral dilemma that one of the sisters has to reckon with, like her own mistakes, basically. But then I always layer in different layers of mystery as I do a bunch of rewriting. I don't know, is that your process? Or how do you?
My process is a mess. My process is like, when does the editor need the draft? And so here you go, and then we'll work from there. So it's really comforting to me to hear you have a process. It's achievable,
Wait, so are you a plotter or a pantser?
I'm a pantser, which means that I basically don't plot out my books ahead of time. But then I will say once I write like a coherent first draft, because there's a lot of incoherent drafts early, I will actually go back and outline, and I'll kind of put that outline over the top of my book to be like, okay, which parts are dragging? Like the first act should not be 200 pages. That's wrong. So like going in there and kind of pulling that together is really like what I've learned how to do. What about you? Did you outline?
It's kind of similar for me, where I'll have this extensive outline, like 20, 30 pages over months, maybe a year. And I think I know what I'm going to do. And then I sit down to write, and the whole thing comes out differently. Like
Totally.
a mess. And then, so for me, it's revising, like constantly rewriting the chapters. And my mom's one of my first readers. And a lot of people in here have read early drafts. So thank you all. I get a lot of feedback from friends, and it's like really important to me and helpful to my writing to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have any like revision tips? Like I know sometimes people put things in different fonts or.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you do?
Like you, I do a reverse outline where I'll outline later on and then have the note cards. And I also, with different beats, like in a 3-act structure. And I also like to print out the whole thing and lay it out chapter by chapter so you can like see it visually on the floor.
That's
I
really
think
cool.
it's like, okay, all my work is right there. How hard could it be?
Well, and for this book, you basically had to do that kind of twice, right? Because you have two narratives moving at the same time. So like, how did you find that process? Kind of like weaving those together and making sure that they were kind of hitting the right beats at the same time for the reader.
Yeah, it was quite a process. It started out just with the older sister, Maya. And so we had the past and present storyline where she's solving a mystery in the past where she's involved. And then in the present, she's trying to figure out what happened to her sister. And my editor, Hillary, who's amazing, she suggested that we introduce the younger sister's perspective more. And that was partly to show that, you know, our society in Princeton had changed and grown for the better over 10 years. And also to show, you know, give Naomi more of a voice. So we wove her chapters in and out throughout the novel.
That's great. So you kind of like layered those two together. That makes a lot of sense. So this is your first book, which way to hit it big out of the gate. Yay. That's pretty great. What's been the most surprising part about the publishing process for you?
Well, I didn't know how many drafts it would be.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that was surprising, but a really great surprise is that the thriller author community is so kind. Every author I've met has been so kind and welcoming, and just like they know how hard it is to write a book, and they've been there. And so like I met Halley at a book club, and you were so great, and we remained friends after that. So, and she blurbed.
I blurbed. It was my honor to get to read it early. That's like one of the coolest things about being an author is that people will send you their books early. So you're like, I got to read Lauren's book, you know? So what's been the best moment so far in this journey? I mean, you told us about the phone call, finding out about Reese, but what else? Yeah, I can imagine. What have been some of the other highlights?
The best moment was giving my dad a copy of the ARC, the advanced reader copy. And he's not a type of person who cries very easily, but he like teared up and he said, I'm so proud of you. And that was like the best moment. Yeah. And my mom's like one of my first readers. So she's read so many drafts, and just to see them so proud is really nice. And they've given up so much for me. So
that's really beautiful. So what can you share about what's next for you, or anything else you want people to know? And then I have one question that you may not want on camera before we go to the lightning round. But.
So next up, I am going to be participating in Lit Up, hopefully this year, which is the Reese's Book Club program for emerging authors. And I'm really excited about that. And then I'm also working on book 2, which is another mystery between a mother and a daughter. And that's all I can say.
Okay, so I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't ask this, but were you in a secret society at Princeton?
Well, no, Greystone Society doesn't exist, or if they do, they didn't tap me.
Okay.
So I was not in a secret society, but I was in an eating club, and I met some of my closest friends to this day in that eating club. And, you know, the school has come a long way since 2010, which is when Maya's early perspective takes place. And this was before Me Too. It was before a bigger push for diversity. And so I just think, like, oh, you asked about the eating clubs.
Oh, I want to hear everything you have to say. So
I guess to me, it's really important to know that this story could take place anywhere, at any university and in any city in the US. And it's more an opportunity to talk about these subjects that we don't often talk about, like sisterhood, belonging, privilege, and to listen to one another and hopefully get closer by doing that. So that's really the intention behind the book.
That's great. Okay, I have a lightning round of this or that questions, but then I want to open it up to everybody for a Q&A. Yay. So if you have any questions percolating. Okay, lightning round.
Okay.
Legally Blonde or Big Little Lies?
Big Little Lies. Oh. But I love both.
Cult or secret societies?
Ooh, secret societies.
Okay. Princeton or USC?
Princeton.
Okay.
I love Princeton.
Hocus Pocus.
Sorry, my USC friends are here. Wait, I take that back. I really like USC too. I was thinking undergrad. I was, so I went to grad
A likely
school at
story.
USC.
Hocus Pocus or The Craft?
Oh, Hocus Pocus.
Good one.
So good.
Werewolves or vampires?
That's a hard one. What about you?
Oh, we're turning it back on me? I'll say vampires because I'm really excited about Rachel Harrison's book that just came out, So Thirsty.
Oh, cool.
The Secret History or Never Let Me Go?
Never Let Me Go. But both are great.
And thus concludes the lightning round.
Yay! Thanks, Halley. That was so fun.
Okay, any questions?
Can I ask about time management? Like, did you
Yeah.
have like conversations just downloading that you had to just stop everything and write?
Yeah, time management was really hard because I wrote this during the pandemic and I was working full time in film as an assistant editor, and that is a full-time job. So I mostly wrote this on weekends with my friend Sam who's here too. We would do these marathon writing sprints like on the weekends, really, and then at night or in the morning. So time management was tough, to be honest.
I have another question for you while people are
Okay.
thinking. So you're working on your second book now.
Yeah,
What did you learn in the process of writing your first book that you think you'll apply to your second book?
that's a great question. I think my process is better now. So I really I talk about outlining. So I try my best. And then I'll have this idea for a theme or a moral question at the center of the book because that's really important to me. I really like Jodi Picoult and I really like books that have this kind of deeper moral struggle. So I'll think about that and the character relationships, and then I'll start drafting the scenes. And I'll skip anything that if I get, writer's block, I'll skip that scene, or I'll just have a framework that's really rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I've learned that.
Yeah, that's great. I just had another question. I'm sorry, my brain went blank.
That's okay.
Any other questions in the
I have a
audience?
question.
Yeah.
Your master's was in screenwriting.
It was the production program at USC. So we got to focus on, cinematography, screenwriting, editing, producing, or directing. And we sort of chose our focus.
So what shifted to this outcome?
I tried to get my screenplays out there and no one wanted them. I didn't really have a connection. So I was meeting these agents like at over LinkedIn, just messaging them cold, or, meeting someone at some kind of event. But it was really hard to try to push my writing forward. And I think I needed to grow a lot too. So then many years later, maybe 7 years later, over the pandemic, when I started writing novels, this is my third that I wrote. That's how I shifted into novel writing.
I never asked.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you have aspirations for this to be a movie or in film?
That would be amazing. That would be so cool. Yes.
Going back to sorry, we have a question
I
here.
have a question.
Mhm.
So you said you were surprised at the many drafts that were necessary to complete the book. So how much do you think, what percentage of the book do you think changed from your original draft to the final draft?
A lot. It definitely changed a lot. Yeah. Actually, so 10 years ago, I wrote this as a screenplay. Not this exact story, but it was a secret society at Princeton with a multiracial woman who was an outsider getting mixed up in this secret society. And so then no one really wanted that. So I put that on hold. And from the first draft, it wasn't even the younger sister who died. It was someone else who wasn't as close with the older sister. So when we introduced the younger sister, it changed everything. And I definitely had to rewrite almost every scene multiple times.
It's one way in the back.
Hi.
What is your favorite chapter?
Ooh.
Is there one where you're just like, Or even like in the editing process, you were kind of like, no, we can't change this.
That's a good question. I was just listening to the audiobook for the first time, and I really like this. There's a football scene kind of early on in the first act, and it's really fun. Like, not a spoiler, but she pretends to be one of the football players and is like, it's just college mischief and nostalgia.
Okay.
And I wanted to cut it because I thought it was like too comedic. And my mom was like, you have to keep this line. So it's in there, and I like that scene a lot now.
Just curious, since you drew so much from your own backgrounds and you're like the mixed race family,
Mm-hmm.
and then you show the book to your dad. I'm
Mhm.
just curious in terms of did he say anything since you killed off the
That's a good question. I told he did say that actually. He was like, "Why is there no dad in the book?" Like, and we have a great relationship. He's so kind. We like read books together. I was thinking this is a thriller. I just have so many characters already that I was trying to simplify. Yeah.
Maybe next book.
And I also purposely want to focus on women's stories, so that's why I have a lot of moms and sisters and friends. Sorry.
Wow. Do you think it's a coincidence that you were in cottage, but all your best friends were in Ivy? Here.
So she was in Ivy.
No, we have one more. Where's Brigitte?
Oh, and Brigitte.
What are
Wow.
the odds? Why do you think? What's the
Hmm.
difference between the two? Do you think?
I think I was probably in Cottage because I played soccer freshman year, and that soccer team was in Cottage. And why were you in Ivy, do you think?
International. No, jokes aside, I think you did a phenomenal job, and it was such a thrill to read. This is too much, but it was such a thrill to read the book, and it really made me feel so nostalgic, but also it was like reunions all over, living through college, and everything's so realistic. It really feels like watching like myself going through college. But it's really, really well done.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Mhm.
I don't want to put you on the spot, so I'll
It's
come up
fine.
with a second question. I don't like this one.
Okay.
But with the two sisters,
Mhm.
do you went to film school. It could be a movie. Do you know which actresses you would cast?
There
But
are
it just
too
puts
many
you on the
good
spot.
ones. There
I
are
could
just so
change
many that I love, so I couldn't just pick one.
Who
Because
gives a
I'd be
couple? It's
so.
all right.
You could be one.
No. What's your second question?
Let me get one
There are
really
just
quick.
so many
I'm
great
gonna go for this.
actors.
Let's see. How did you get your agent?
Oh, that's a fun question. Yeah. So I had queried another book, which was my second book that I tried writing over the pandemic. And I was also getting these surgeries on my knee and my hips, and it was like a rough time. And Brad was taking care of me. Thank you, Brad. And so I had queried another book and gotten some requests to read the full manuscript, but at the end of the day, no one wanted it. So then I had started writing Society of Lies and queried that, sent it to 50 agents or so, just a cold query.
You did all 50 at the same time?
No, it was like batches of 5 or 10. And then in a Twitter pitch contest, someone wanted to read the full manuscript, read it really quickly, and offered representation. And then the other ones started to offer too.
Oh, they were like all those guys wanting to take you to the prom all at the same time.
It is kind of like that.
And then you just found the right one.
And then
Right.
Alexandra, the conversation with her, she's just incredible. I owe so much of this to her. Like, she had a huge impact on the book from the beginning. We worked for a year to revise it, and then Hillary at Valentine bought it, and we worked for another year to revise it with her. So
Well, obviously, it's winner chicken dinner.
Thanks.
I can't wait to read it. I
Thank
didn't get
you.
the problem.
Okay, so this week was so huge for you, and I want to know how much of this week did you manifest, and what are your best manifestations for the week?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, my friend Teeny and I, she's also one of my earliest readers, and we make vision boards. And so we also try to like think of the best case scenario and what could happen. And it was definitely a dream, but obviously I never expected Reese's Book Club to want my book, especially my first one. It was sort of like a far off dream, but I did love her authors and have read so many of the Reese's Book Club books. So I think we tried to manifest a lot of this. And then it happened. Like over the pandemic, didn't have an agent, didn't have a publisher. And so, just I think actually what really helps me is making small progress toward these bigger goals rather than only thinking about the end goal, but like every day making a little bit of progress towards it and staying optimistic in general.
You worked so hard.
Thanks.
Don't forget. Hard work.
I think we have a question there.
What's your one piece of advice for aspiring writers?
Thanks, Fraser. Okay. One is definitely don't give up, because I have encountered so much rejection and failure over the 10 years that I've been writing and trying to get short stories out there, trying to get screenplays, and then eventually novels. So don't give up. And then also there's so many craft resources, like craft books. I'm sure you have some favorites, like Save the Cat.
Save the Cat Writes a Novel is one of my favorites.
Yeah, that one's really good. Or Save the Cat Writes for TV. And then there's On Writing by Stephen King. I really like that one. Modern Library Writers Workshop.
Story Genius.
Yeah, so studying those really helped too.
Do you think you would, now that you have published this book and you have this whole experience and definitely learned it a lot, I'm sure, do you think you'll revisit your 2 previous books and try to get that out there?
That's a great question. The first one is too crazy. it was a sci-fi about sisters, and then one gets taken away to a psychiatric institution, and the other one has to break her out.
I read that.
Okay. And then the second one maybe is like a domestic thriller about 2 neighbors of different ethnicities who at first don't think that they have anything in common, but then they help each other in the end. So maybe that one. Oh, you like the first one? Okay.
Oh, we have another question there.
If Society of Lies was a TV show, would you want to be in the writer's room?
Oh, that is such a good question. That's really interesting. If I trust the people who are developing it, I feel like I would take a step back and concentrate on my next book, but never say never, I guess.
Or be an editor.
I wouldn't be an editor. You guys can.
So as I was reading your book, I love like the dual point of views, and so I was just wondering like what inspired you to do that, and also add in the element of the complexities of like the now and then timeline, because it really does add to the suspense. But like as a writer, like what inspires you to do that?
Good question. I think some of my favorite books have this structure where they're dealing with the 2 timelines, like some mystery in the past affects what's happening in the present. And so I just think it's so interesting also when the reader knows more than the characters. So when you introduce the 2 sisters, you have one sister who's figuring out clues, and then the other who is living the last months leading up to her death. And I just love that process of being a mystery reader and being maybe one step ahead of the characters. So I don't know if that answers the question.
Can I piggyback off that and ask? So again, you have such intricate timelines. Did you have any tools that you use to keep track of things? Because I struggle to do that in my own writing.
I struggle too. I think I mean, the note card trick,
Mhm.
like writing all the beats and the scenes on note cards. And then Scrivener's great because I like moving things around. I like color coding the different timelines. I don't know. Do you have any tricks?
No, that's why I'm asking.
I don't have any tricks either. I'm still working on that. Maybe next book.
I do think Andrea Bartz once said she has a great newsletter for like aspiring authors, and she talked about setting up a Google Calendar that's specific to your book so that you could look at it and be like, okay, this happened on Monday, this will happen on Tuesday, and to keep track that way.
Smart.
But I haven't tried it yet.
That's smart. I do have the date on every chapter, so I look up the real day of the week and things. And Andrea Bartz, speaking of her, she's great. She also told me this piece of advice that really influenced my writing. And she said, write yourself a review, like a glowing review, as if your book was already published. This was before I had an agent or anything, and I was just writing it. And so like what someone would say about it. And I think that's just like a nice way of getting into, an optimistic mindset about it and finding out what's at the heart of the book. Like for me, this is a book about sisters and belonging, but I didn't realize that when I was first writing.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Do you prefer writing first person or third person? And how do you feel
Good
about
question.
writing third person?
I like reading books in both.
Mm-hmm.
I initially wrote the second book that I'm working on now. I initially wrote it in third person with like 5 different points of view, and it was way too many. And so I cut most of them, and now I'm down to 2 points of view in first person. So I think it's so different. I don't know. I like both, but I'm not ready for third.
Right.
Maybe in a few books. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Oh,
this
thank
is really
you.
great.
Pick up your copy here in the desk, and then I'm sure Lauren will be happy to sign.
Yeah.
Thank
you so much, everyone.
I'm gonna buy your books,
Oh,
but
thank
I'm gonna take a
you.
picture now because I have a dinner after.
All right.
So I can post.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yay!
Yeah. Get in the front of the line before everybody fills up. Do
Yeah.
you want this back?
She's a cute.
Okay.
And you should buy her book.
Yeah, I might have to buy your book.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hurricane Blonde.
Hurricane Blonde.
And I posted on my story. I know your face.
I want to look at your novel.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Because I'm Barbie with my best friend.